The Bank of Ghana has frozen the accounts of all the directors and managers of the two banks it recently collapsed. The central bank was left with no choice but to revoke the license of UT Bank and Capital Bank, which were deeply insolvent. It later hinted that it will punish those found culpable after detailed investigations into why these banks collapsed. But on upfront yesterday, head of Bank of Ghana's Banking Supervision Unit, Raymond Amanfo, revealed the freeze as part of the initial investigations the bank carried out.
What we have done in the course of this exercise is to block directors' accounts, is to block related parties' accounts, is to block key management staff accounts. Now, the reason why we have done that temporarily, I must have put the word temporarily, is that we have to examine those accounts from, let's say, a period.
Okay.
And then try to find out, are there any unusual transactions? If the unusual transactions, then it must be investigated.
What do you mean by unusual transactions?
Let's say that you are a director, and we see from the account, the only money that comes into your account is basically director's fee. Okay, let's say, I don't know exactly how much they pay, but if it is 5,000 per sitting, and then I see all of a sudden movement from the same bank into your account of, let's say, 200,000. I want to know why. What happened?
Okay.
Right? Or I want to see a narration in your account. Loan to Director X. Was the procedure for approval followed? Does it have a board approval? Did it go through the risk management framework? Is it consistent with the act that gives you as to how much you can lend to a director?
Okay.
It is a related company. Does the director involved absented himself from the meeting? Or did he excuse himself? Or did he fully disclose that I am an interested party in this company?
Has this been done for the two banks?
No, that's what I'm saying. That
there's currently a freeze.
There's currently a freeze, and we are going on it. I mean, the team from Bank of Ghana is there with the Pricewaterhouse. We are looking at this thing because, you see, they are not things that you can block for a long time.
Mr. Amanfo also explained a local firm with a crack team of financial and legal experts have been identified to undertake in-depth investigations into the collapse of the two banks.
You had indicated earlier on that you are investigating. Is this the investigation you're talking about?
No. This is what we call post-acquisition work.
Okay.
Right? We want to find out. If I find anything unusual, it becomes a subject to the investigator. That is my preliminary findings, right? So you give it to...
So has the investigator started work yet?
Not yet. We have selected a firm to do that.
Which firm are you talking about?
Well, I don't think, because I've not gotten the approval from PPA, I don't think it's wise for me to...
Okay, you have to go to procurement to do
because
that.
we are dealing with... We want it to be fast.
So this is an external firm?
Yes, it's an external firm.
Okay.
Of chartered accountants, bankers, and lawyers.
Oh, okay.
So we have to make sure that if I say that somebody has committed fraud, the lawyers in the team should be able to prove it. Because, you see, the onus is on you.
They should be able to actually gather evidence.
Yes. So that is why you have to take not only an accounting firm, take a firm that has accountants, that have bankers, who understand. If I say you get a loan, the person knows how loans are processed, the stages it goes through.
Is it PwC or KPMG?
It's not. It's not any of them.
It's not any of them?
It's not any of them.
It's an external institution?
It's a local firm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yes.
But you believe they have competence in this area?
Well, you look at their background, you look at their CV, you look at the works that they have done.
Okay.
You just heard of Banking Supervision at the Bank of Ghana, Raymond Amanfo, in a conversation with Raymond Aqua on Upfront. Let's now speak to financial analyst Sydney Casely Hayford for more on this. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Would you consider the freezing of the account of the directors and managers of these two defunct banks as a step in the right direction?
It's an absolutely necessary step. It has to be done because whilst you're doing the investigation, you want to make sure that anybody who is involved would be able to speak up freely and not be concerned about whether or not they have a job going forward. It's very important with all of these things that the people who've been supervising the bank and managing the bank are absolutely clean in the outcome that we are witnessing now. And if the bank has gone down to that extent, both banks, UT and Capital, have gone down, drained to such an extent, then those who are managing the bank have to answer directly. And yes, this is what it needs to be done in order to ensure that customers' balances are actually secure.
Well, Mr. Hayford, what does this move, I mean, the Bank of Ghana having to freeze the accounts of these managers and directors, say about maybe the seriousness or not so seriousness of this issue at hand?
Well, if the Bank of Ghana has frozen accounts like this, then you have to start thinking that there is some element of fraud involved and that they are suspicious of the way the transactions have gone through the bank. So this is probably the beginning of something much larger to come. And if the Bank of Ghana is really tough and does what it's supposed to do and applies the law, then we should see some people also not just only being having their assets frozen, but also being prosecuted somewhere down the line.
Mr. Hayford, before you leave, what should we expect after these investigations are done?
Well, I would expect that there will be some kind of investigation. The Bank of Ghana will have its own external investigation and will question most of the transactions that we're hearing about now. And then if they decide that there is some element of fraud, then it will be forwarded to the requisite investigative authority, either the CID or EOCO or somebody like that, and we might see prosecution coming down the line. That will be the natural progression once they've started this way.
Thank you very much for your time. Sidney Casely-Hayford is a financial analyst. Meanwhile, it is emerging that the Bank of Ghana may have spent over 5 billion cedis in supporting the banks said to be in serious financial distress. This is what Joy Business has picked up after going through the central bank's financial reports over the past 3 years. In dollar terms, this amount might be equivalent to over $1 billion. But are these banks in a position to even pay back these loans? George Wiafe has more.
A careful look at the financial reports also shows that the current problems facing the banking sector in terms of concerns about their financial strength might have started at around August 2014. This is because the support for the banks shot up significantly from that time. For the purposes of our analysis, we'll focus on the bank loans from January 2014 to January 2017. The statement showed that support levels jumped from around 200 million Ghana cedis to over 1 billion Ghana cedis as of June 2015. It is not clear for now whether all the support went to the 9 distressed banks or the entire banking industry. Joy Business can also confirm that UT and Capital Bank got some significant amount of these funds to help them in their daily operations. Joy Business can also confirm that 2 out of the 9 distressed banks were foreign-owned financial institutions. The banks also include 1 local financial institution that recently saw a significant growth in assets for them to join the top banks in the country.
In a related development, President Akufo-Addo has charged the Bank of Ghana to address the weaknesses in the banking sector to strengthen the financial sector. He assured facilitating the national identification system among many to ease operations in the financial sector. He said this at an event to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Bank of Ghana.
We are working hard to formalize the economy by the establishment of a national database through the National Identification System. When fully rolled out, all registered persons will be provided with a unique identification number and an ID card to facilitate the efficient delivery of public and private services, including financial services, mobile banking, mobile commerce, social safety nets, health insurance, and revenue collection, among others. Government will also roll out a national digital property addressing system for the country this year. This is aimed at having digital addresses for all parcels of land and properties in the country. And this should complement the bank's effort at improving the credit referencing system in the country. The national identification and digital address systems are expected to support the development of the country's payment and settlement systems. The foundation for effective and efficient payment systems was laid out some 10 years ago, and more recently, the bank has established a payment system department and a payment settlement council to oversee the development of the payment system in the country. I believe when we harness our synergies, we will be able to build a solid infrastructure for increased and regular usage of electronic payment channels that will promote financial inclusion and a more efficient cashless society.
We'll bring you more on this in subsequent bulletins. Away from that, lecturer at the Fisheries Department of the University of Ghana, Dr. Samadu, has expressed surprise at deaths resulting from the consumption of a poisonous fish in Pando. Dr. Adu says the species of fish is known by locals in the Volta Basin as they've been educated in the past on how they can avoid the poisonous part of that fish. 4 people have died and 10 are in critical condition after they consumed the said fish. Dr. Samadu spoke to my colleague Daniel Dazi on News Desk earlier.
It is known to have some poisonous glands, and the poison in it is known as the tetrodotoxin, and this toxin is said to be a neurotoxin, which means that it affects the nervous system. And once your nervous system is affected, obviously, we need to get those within the local communities who know how to process this fish for food without, it had, because if some say they know how to cut off the head, maybe take other internal organs and so on and so forth and make it safe for eating. These are people, the locals have that knowledge. So why don't we, even researchers, educationists, and the Fisheries Commission, the Food and Drugs Authority, we go in there, get these people organized, let us see the experts, and then know how they do the processing. After processing, it could be tested by GSA to see whether the processed one is safe for eating, and the way by which they did the processing could be passed on to others.
Meanwhile, the Food and Drugs Authority says it's begun investigations into the incident.
We got to know some people at a particular type of fish and they were hospitalized. So we interacted with indigenes and we were told the fish is called Hukluwe or Agede. They say it's a fish that has been consumed of old. So why these particular people have had this problem, I can't tell. But others also say there is a mode of handling the fish. You have to remove the head and the skin and throw away before you eat whatever it is. But it's not something that I know of. So I'm taking the information from the field as it is.
You're watching Joy News today with me, Benis Abubedu. Still to come, 1 person dead and 3 others left injured in a clash at Oshiye. We'll bring you more. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying here on Joy News today. Now, 1 person is dead and 3 others injured after clashes at Oshiye here in Accra. It's the third of such deadly clash in the last few weeks, and residents say they are living in fear. Some of the residents say the deceased who accosted some workers on a building site was killed after an altercation. Joy News is learning a chieftaincy dispute dating 2 decades has resulted in many disagreements over land ownership, with many claimants in the small community of Oshiye. Some thugs, popularly known as land guards, have also taken advantage of the situation. Joy News' Maxwell Agbagba has visited the community.
This is the exact spot where the gentleman was killed Thursday morning. Now, when you come here, the blood is still splattered here. Some of the residents in this little community of Oshiye have tried covering it with some soil, but it's still visible. You can still see the blood. They tell me that sometime around 8 o'clock a.m. Thursday, they heard some gunshots echoing around this place. They came out and then they saw the body lying here. Earlier, we were at the Kokrobite police station where some officers there tell us that a long-standing dispute between some claimants to the stool here in this community has resulted in many land cases. One of those cases is what has resulted in the killing of the gentleman here in this community.
Around 8 a.m., we were in the house. We heard some gunshots. When we came out, we realized someone had been shot. The person had died at the time we came here. We were about 10 residents gathered here after the shooting. We heard the gunshots and ran to our rooms. We are new in this community and we've never seen anything like this before. We want to go back to our hometown.
The
land guards usually attack us when we are working. They tell us to stop anytime they meet us. Sometimes they extort money from us. When you don't give them, they will attack you. This is my son. They hit his head with a stick a month ago. Even when we are working, we are scared. We are living in fear in this community.
Away from that, the ordeal sexual abuse victims have to endure is traumatizing enough to have some want to immediately take their own lives. Unfortunately, many victims get absolutely no support on how to cope with the trauma they have to live with. Experts say hundreds of sexually abused girls continue to suffer silently due to their inability to access proper medical and psychological treatment to enable them recover. In the following hotline documentary, Joy News' Adelaide Arthur and Manasseh Azuri-Anwuni tell the stories of some of these survivors of defilement.
I name is a mean coming with them, nearly part me knew. Some about so many to obey us and you Missy Fire Yapa. No, meaning Bonamayo. No, me ever study. No, Nim Demic. Is a minion Bonivia.
When 14-year-old Angel woke up one morning in March, she had no idea it would be the most dreadful day of her life, a day she would come close to death. She was kidnapped, raped, and strangled by 5 men. She survived the terrible ordeal, and it was only because she outsmarted her attackers who had dumped her in a stream to die a very painful death. This devastating experience is still fresh in her mind.
No, no presence and coming now. So no more pena, no more good chamasi. So I was no war on. No war on to be tip bob was a fena, manisium to but not metis on Mocassa. Snammy who she told me a baby, I metis a papano. I can say moon. I miss one almost so moon to me, but metis will be me. To me, I'm not me paper on me said that jam what to say there. mi koko makrana papa ka so mo fa mi no mo ntumi so no to mo ntumi so no manu sia mi tun na mi hutimi dan almost be 1 hour na mi gusi dan so mani titim na mi dan so no ma me nsahwe.
A psychologist recommended 6 months counseling for Angel at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital in Kumasi.
Good morning, mommy. It's nice to see you. Let's say, every hour was started by
Expect the full documentary on this channel soon. Now, the government has set up a center at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to receive donations from the public in support of Sierra Leone following the Monday mudslide and flooding disaster. According to the authorities, Ghana will send medicine, food, blankets, mosquito nets, among others. Today is the last day for donations to be received. Maxwell Akbagba was there for Joy News.
I disagree. Okay. If the comment is that we were slow in taking action. The reason being that this calamity happened on Monday. The next day, Tuesday, our president, President Akufo-Addo, made a call to his counterpart in Sierra Leone. And they spoke, sharing in the grief, of our brothers and sisters in Sierra Leone. That's Tuesday. Consequent to that discussion that the two presidents had, I met the Sierra Leone High Commissioner to Ghana here in the same office at 4 p.m. on Wednesday under the authorization of my minister, Honorable Shalaye Kubochi. So in our discussions, she told me some of the things they will need. She said that they will need medicine, they will need some food, they will need clothing, they will need blankets, they will need some mosquito nets. Immediately after my meeting with her, I transmitted the discussions to the presidency. Based on that, yesterday at the cabinet session, we had a full hall and this matter was discussed thoroughly. And government has come out finally with a decision as to what to do. Today, NADMO is going to take off with some of the relief items that government is provided and the ones that we've also had from the good people of this country. NADMO is leaving this morning. Latest by 12, NADMO will be airborne, to take lead with the relief items. Then first thing tomorrow morning, the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, will lead a high-powered government delegation to Sierra Leone, to present our share, of what we want to present to the good people of Sierra Leone. So Dr. Bawumia will lead the delegation. Then the presentation will be done tomorrow morning, God willing. Everybody will get to know what Ghana has for our brothers and sisters in Sierra Leone.
Togolese President and Chair of ECOWAS, Faure Gnassingbé, donated $500,000 on behalf of the Togolese government, whereas the ECOWAS Commission donated $200,000. The Specialized Health Institution of ECOWAS, WAHO, donated $100,000. Senegalese President Macky Sall donated $100,000. A Togo-based ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development has also donated $100,000. Away from that, the Agric Ministry says despite the armyworm infestation, the country will experience high crop yields in 2018 and not a reduction of yield. According to a Deputy Minister of Agric, William Ejapon Kwetu, the calculation of the ministry indicates plans and programs, including the Planting for Food and Jobs program, will ensure an increase rather than a reduction. The Deputy Minister of Agric was speaking to Richard Kojonyako in Cape Coast after an engagement with MMDCEs.
In July this year, the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana mounted pressure on government to declare a state of emergency as fall armyworms ravaged farmlands across the country. An estimated 20,000 hectares of farm fields were infected, up from only about 1,400 hectares as at April this year. As a result, farmers made huge losses. However, Deputy Minister of Agric William Ejapon Kwetu tells Joy News, despite the armyworm infestation, he is optimistic the country will experience high crop yields in coming years.
If we are comparing our expected yields for 2017 to 2016, I would say there will be an increase. There wouldn't be any reduction, despite the armyworm canker. Initially, we had a little destruction of maize farms because one the armyworm was quite new to Africa and to us. And so it took some time for us to be able to identify what worm it was and how to combat it. And so it affected only a few percentage of the early maize that were planted. You know, in Ghana we have about 2 main seasons. 2 seasons for the southern sector and 1 main season for the northern sector, including some northern part of the Volta region.
He added that armyworm infestation does not mean the land is totally destroyed.
If a farm is affected, it doesn't mean the farm is destroyed. Infection is different from destruction. The farms that were affected were treated. And so out of the 113,000 hectares, only 14,300 were destroyed that we couldn't retrieve. And so people were saying that because of armyworm there will be hunger in 2017 and all that. That isn't going to be the situation.
The armyworm infested large swathes of corn crops across South Africa, devastating the livelihood of many farmers.
Now to the housing sector. Deputy Minister for Water Resources, Works and Housing, Frida Prempeh, is encouraging construction companies to use local raw materials in their business. She believes this will bring down the cost of housing, in her view, is the reason for the many unoccupied residential units and high-rise apartments across the capital. Frida Prempeh was speaking to journalist Jonah Tor of some properties in Tema as part of the ministry's engagement with the private sector.
Ghana's current housing deficit stands at 1.7 million. The problem, apart from congestion and overpopulation, has also been attributed to the poor income levels of the citizenry. Real estate developers such as City Realty and others have made efforts in recent times to help address the challenge. This, however, has not been as successful as expected. Most of their properties are too expensive for the ordinary Ghanaian. It is on this premise the Housing Ministry took a tour at some of the property sites to engage the private sector to partner government in constructing affordable structures to meet everyone's pockets.
We want to bridge the gap in the housing industry. Ghana, as it stands now, we have a housing deficit of 1.7 million. If we want to undertake a comprehensive scientific research, we'll be heading towards to about 2 million housing deficits. As you drive around Accra, you come across a lot of houses, you come across a lot of apartments, you come across a lot of some of these high-rise buildings, looking and crying for buyers. So you ask yourself, why are we still talking about housing deficit? Because the cost of such buildings are very expensive. We in the housing industry are looking at a situation where we can get quality, affordable houses for the good people of Ghana. And let me take this opportunity to commend City Realties for putting up such a magnificent high-rise building for renting and for good people of Ghana to buy. And the ministry is also ready to partner the private sector to ensure that Ghanaians have affordable houses to live in.
The Deputy Minister, Frida Prempeh, was also concerned about the use of local materials in all constructions in order to promote Made in Ghana.
So if government wants to support the affordable, those people at the basement, we need to go into a social housing scheme where people below the ladder can afford to rent or buy a house. So at a stance, I think we have to do a lot of work. That's why we are advocating that the private sector especially incorporate the usage of local materials into the building industry. We believe that if we're able to do that, we'll bring down the cost of buildings.
Chief Executive Officer of City Realty, Godwin Ajay Jimfi, explained what goes into costing their properties, for which reason City Realty should be the ideal choice in meeting one's accommodation needs.
The idea of our development is to have a gated community enclave whereby our occupants will have the benefit of shops such as pharmacies and also leisure facilities, so that they do not need to simply go out for those essential amenities. I must also make it clear that it is also a state of the art and is very, very affordable. We have, as I explained to you earlier on, rooftop and underground reservoir to provide 24-hour water supply. We also have, as you can see, a standby generator to provide 24-hour service power supply. So once you step into our development, Doomsaw stops.
There are quite a number of unoccupied apartments strewn all over the capital. This is because they're too expensive for the people who actually need them. The ministry believes the only way to sell these properties off is to make them less expensive. Mapito Sibidi's reports for Joy News.